It's become apparent in recent years that the levels of violence and verbal abuse against shop workers have been increasing significantly. For example, the British Retail Consortium revealed that 115 physical attacks are carried out against shop workers every single day. The government's own statistics from the Home Office Commercial Victimisation Survey put violence and verbal abuse against shop employees at the highest level since 2012. But sadly, the data also reveals that this is simply the tip of the iceberg. Shop workers that I interviewed as part of this study tell me that they're not reporting incidents because they don't have confidence in the criminal justice system. They don't believe that police, who are already overstretched and under-resourced, are going to be able to respond to their reports. So we know that this is really reaching a critical point. So the findings revealed 4 main scenarios in which shop workers are experiencing violence and verbal abuse. That was encountering shoplifters, it was enforcing age-restricted sales and the sale of other prohibited items, it was hate-related incidents and verbal attacks, and then lastly we also found a more deliberate type of violence through the course of armed robbery and unarmed robbery. The report outlines 7 key recommendations which I believe, if implemented, will begin to turn the tide on the increasing levels of violence and verbal abuse that are being experienced by shop workers in this country. The Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act in 2014 essentially downgraded the seriousness of shoplifting. So any offences with a value of less than £200 was no longer being dealt with in the magistrates' court. The offenders that I spoke to as part of this study told me that essentially they feel that they've been given a licence to steal. And this is really quite concerning because it's placing shop workers in a very dangerous and vulnerable position. We know that that's the #1 trigger encountering shoplifters for these violent incidents. If offenders are saying that they feel a level of impunity if they steal under the value of £200, I wonder if the act has actually been counterproductive in terms of what it was trying to achieve. One of the most concerning aspects of this study is that due to the sheer volume of incidents that are occurring, we're in danger of accepting this as a social norm. One of the recommendations is around having an industry and government-led campaign to really drive home that there is zero tolerance towards violence against shop workers. One of the recommendations outlines that shop workers need better protection when they're upholding the law around the sale of restricted items such as alcohol and tobacco. So what we would like to see, similar in some other sectors, is that crimes are aggravated if they're perpetrated against a shop worker who is simply doing their duty to protect the community. The report certainly isn't a palatable or easy read. But the one positive from it is that it's clear from the evidence that violence is preventable. It is certainly not inevitable. And so with a concerted effort between government, industry and communities, I believe that we can begin to tackle the heightened levels of violence that shop workers are experiencing, but also the levels of violence that we're currently seeing in society. I advocate for a public health approach to tackling violence, and through this policy lens we can begin to stem the tide of violence that is occurring in our shops, but also that we're seeing in our communities.